He's talking about why coal is, well, dumb. And I don't know what he's gonna say in it, but curious to see what he says. Let's take a listen.
I'm going off the dome with this one, so I apologize. But this might feel like something that doesn't need to be explained. But
Okay.
trust me, it actually does. And that's for two reasons, actually. Number one, you actually don't understand why coal is so bad. Like, you've got pieces of it, but I promise you, unless you're, like, in the biz, you do not understand why coal is such a
Yeah, I'm not in the biz.
way to electrify a country. Now, it was great when it was the only option, but it isn't anymore, and we've got amazing technologies now, even in the fossil fuel space, that far outpace coal's effectiveness for a bunch of different reasons. But the second reason this needs to be said is because the discoursocracy that now runs my entire country, it's very dumb, but no one talks about why it's very dumb, because the people who think that coal is dumb don't need to be convinced beyond, like, it's bad for the climate and the air. But the people who think that coal isn't dumb, the ones who think that it might be an important part of the future electricity mix of our nation, those people aren't being hit with the arguments that would actually convince them.
Sure.
Because the people who talk to them have no interest in telling them how dumb coal is. So in this video, you're going to notice a pretty surprising lack of conversation about the climate, because everybody knows that coal is bad when it comes to putting a lot of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere that will be there for a very long time.
I knew that.
There's basically no way to get it out. Now, is there a way to get it out? I hope so. I hope someday that we'll figure out a cost-effective way to remove carbon dioxide from the air. Right now, we do not have
chemistry.
that. I've been working for over a year on a video script that's about all of the different ways that we could remove carbon from the atmosphere that is already there. But much easier is keeping it from getting into the atmosphere in the first place, and not burning coal is an amazing and extremely cost-effective way.
Prevention's always better.
Everybody, including myself, who's sort of focused on, like...
He's talking so fast. Isn't it crazy? It's just so funny.
Fossil fuels should not be used at all. We should be moving past them almost entirely. This video is kind of not for you. Will it reach anyone else? I don't know. But let's talk real quick about why coal is a bad way to create electricity, and we're going to start with the biggest reason, which is the combined cycle gas turbine, which you can't use with coal. So probably the picture you have of a power plant in your head is the way that a coal-fired power plant works. So there's a fire under a boiler, and that boiler then boils water, and then that water goes through a turbine. That steam, it takes up way more space than the water does before it boiled. So there's all this pressure, and then that pressure passes over this basically extraordinarily complex fan that then spins. And then on the other side, you recondense the steam, and that further sucks all that pressure down through the spinning fan, and that's what generates electricity. The spinning fan then spins a generator. That's how it works.
Right.
And that's how, like, pretty much every power plant worked for a really long time. But now, most fossil fuel power plants built in the U.S. are combined cycle gas.
I mean, actually, it's just kind of neat because I actually knew about this a little bit. Like, because I don't know, for some of the projects I work on, like in college, it was like on power generation stuff and like hydroelectric dams, right? But those generate power to, well, yeah, every power generation is spinning a turbine, so it's kind of cool.
Gas turbine. And they have, get this, a combined cycle. What is the combined cycle? They have two different generators in them. So one thing that happens when you burn something is you get heat. Another thing that happens is you get pressure. So when you burn coal, the carbon dioxide and water and other gases that come off of that take up a lot more space than the coal does. And that actually creates pressure. And for a coal-fired power plant, that's just vented. That's what comes out of the smoke. So you do not capture the energy of the expansion of volume of the coal to a gas. You cannot do that because coal is a terrible fuel. It's got a bunch of other stuff in it, and if you tried to do it, it would totally corrode the giant, expensive, fancy fan that you would be using to capture that energy. There's all these particles, there's all this acid. It would just completely destroy it in a matter of months. But what if you could burn a fossil fuel that's ultra pure? In that case, the only thing that you get when you burn that ultra pure fuel is water vapor and carbon dioxide. And those are actually two fairly stable molecules, even at high temperatures. So what you can do when you burn a very pure fuel, like, for example, methane, this is what methane looks like. It is the simplest.
Sorry. I don't like ads. You guys don't like ads? Nobody likes ads.
And when I say organic, I mean carbon-based, not created by life, though in this case it was at one point created by life, which was bacteria breaking down organic matter, and then it was captured under rocks in the earth, and then we got it out, and then we burned it. So we burned this methane, which we also call natural gas. That's sort of like the pretty term for it. It's just natural gas, but it's methane. You burn this methane, and all you get is water vapor and carbon dioxide, and so you can capture the expansion of volume that goes from the methane, which takes up less space, to these new gases that take up way more space, and they're going to blast over this fan, and that's going to create electricity. But then also you get the heat. You still get the heat. So that exhaust is super hot. And then they run that exhaust basically through a boiler, and that again boils some water. Then that steam passes over a second fan. And actually these two fans are connected together. And because you capture energy twice, you capture both the heat and the expansion of
energy.
the
Electricity.
You capture way more of the energy of the fossil fuel. So you get more energy per unit of fuel you use. Now, there's a world where economically it would still be better to burn coal if coal were way cheaper than natural gas. But coal isn't way cheaper than natural gas, especially in America, because we are like the world's leader in the technology for how to get natural gas out of the ground. So the combined cycle gas turbine, the fact that you can just get way more energy per unit of fuel, is the #1 reason why natural gas is far superior to coal as a fuel. Now also you get less carbon dioxide per unit of energy. That's important to me. You don't get no carbon dioxide though. And also very importantly, methane is a very potent greenhouse gas. Along the entire supply chain of getting methane from the ground to the power plant, there's lots of little leaks, and those little leaks release the methane, and they add substantially to the warming of the planet. So that's a way that natural gas is not good. Now we can and are working hard to get rid of methane leaks because they're bad. Like they're a waste of methane if nothing else. But you do generally want very badly for methane to not escape into the atmosphere, which is why you see flares. So whenever you see a flare at a chemical plant or at a landfill or at a water treatment plant, that's because there's methane being produced and they're flaring it to turn it into carbon dioxide. Because methane itself is much more potent as a greenhouse gas than carbon dioxide. But this is not the only reason. For the exact same reason that coal cannot be used in a combined cycle plant, because there's all these emissions, there's all these like things that are not pure gases that are going through the turbine. Those things also get released into the atmosphere, or if they don't, they get captured on the way out of the power plant by scrubbers, and then that produces a great deal of very toxic industrial waste that contains mercury, it contains lead, it contains radioactive waste, it contains all kinds of terrible stuff that if you put it on your skin you'd get cancer. And some of that stuff isn't getting captured. It's getting into the air, it's getting into our lungs, it's getting into our fish. Like you hear that tuna has mercury in it. Do you think that tuna naturally has mercury in it?
I thought it did, to be honest.
Tuna has mercury in it because we burned mercury-containing coal. It went into the atmosphere.
I didn't actually know that. I thought it just like actually had mercury. Huh. That's really fascinating. I did not know people did that. Neat. I wonder what other things then too that we've put chemicals into.
Got absorbed into the ocean, got absorbed by plankton, got eaten by fish, got eaten by other fish, and then got eaten by tuna. That's where the mercury in fish comes from. Coal is a bad fuel. Oh, also, by the way, I should say that this video is brought to you by EcoGeek eco-friendly cleaning products. This is a thing that I do over at good.store. In fact, let me pop up on my screen recorder right now.
Should we watch the ad?
Everything that we got going on, but I can also take you over to EcoGeek. We work with amazing brands like Meliora and like Sheets Laundry Club. We work with the Green Llama people. It's a bunch of good stuff that works very well, but it's also designed to not have a lot of packaging. And so instead of like going to the store and buying something that contains a bunch of water with stuff dissolved in it, we just send you the stuff that you could dissolve in water yourself. And that also means that it's super cheap, and you can use your own reusable bottles, or we will sell you reusable bottles.
Come on, it's actually cheaper though. Come on.
I will say our reusable bottles, I'm looking right now, are currently sold out. So sorry about that. Basically what I'm telling you is it's good for like 1,000 different reasons, but among them also is everything that you buy at good.store, 100% of the profit gets donated to charity. And
whoa, that's kind of cool.
And how can they afford to pay you, Hank, to do an advertisement for them? They don't. I started it because I was interested in whether or not you could run a company that donates all of its profit to charity. There I am on the website with some overalls. Who gave me overalls? No, it's an apron. That's an apron. Sorry. So yeah, check it out. We've got dishwashing. We've got laundry. We've also got sunbasin soap, which is more your hand soaps, your body soap, your shampoo, and also a lovely Woodwick candle here. And look, while you're at good.store looking at EcoGeek, you might as well look at some other.
Yeah, actually the prices there weren't horrible. I mean, what, $50 for 6 months of soap? How much do you actually get though, right? It's just you got a bar a month, so $50, so $10 for soap a month. Well, what, like 8.8 something. That's kind of expensive, man. It's kind of expensive. candle. That thing looks interesting. See, I feel like this would be the kind of thing you'd buy as a gift for somebody. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Lovely woodwick candle here. And look, while you're at Good.Store, look at an EcoGeek, you might as well look at some other stuff. Because again, there's a ton of people working very hard to make sure that we have the highest quality possible products, that we're selling them at a good price. So check it out. And now back to the video. That's not even the end of why coal is bad. So if you are an engineer and you're dealing with moving stuff around, you vastly would prefer a liquid or a gas to a solid. Solids suck. They create dust. That dust can be dangerous. You have to have conveyor belts. You put them in train cars. You have to move them around.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
Put them in pipes. Solids don't move through pipes. So anyone working in the fossil fuel industry already would prefer working with gases and liquids, which is why everybody prefers gas. It's just better. Now, the technology is harder. Like a combined cycle gas turbine requires a lot more engineering ability. You have to be better at being an engineer to build one than to build a coal-fired power plant. So
seems like we could do that, though.
America's good at that part. Like, we have lots of extraordinarily talented engineers.
Right.
We can do that part. But we have not yet reached the end of the conversation here. There's another big reason why coal is dumb. Because a coal-fired power plant is really dependent on just the temperature of the fuel. It takes a long time to get the boiler up to the temperature that you want it to be at. You cannot easily like decrease and increase the temperature a bunch, because one, that will stress the boiler, and like long term you create too much wear and tear on the power plant. You don't want to do that. But also it just takes a long time to bring the temperature up to the optimal temperature of the power plant. So coal-fired power plants run at pretty much the same temperature all of the time. And for a while, for a lot of electricity, that was kind of fine, because we were using a lot of electricity at night, particularly because lighting required a lot of electricity, and now lighting doesn't require a lot of electricity. We have figured out how to make light much more efficiently, and so the power use drops really
light bulbs are
low
crazy
at
nowadays.
nighttime, and coal-fired power plants have to create power during that time.
Right.
And we don't have as many like things around to absorb that power. And so a coal-fired power plant becomes even more inefficient because it is creating power at times when we don't need it. So you're burning fuel and releasing carbon dioxide and spending money and running this thing 24 hours a day, even though the product is not needed 24 hours a day. Like the coal-fired power plant has to create the right amount for the daytime, and then it just has to keep producing that same amount. It's very dumb. And that means a bunch of waste all along the way. Like, you're producing more pollutants, you're producing more industrial waste, you're consuming more fuel, you are warming the climate more than you otherwise would be. So coal is dumb for all of those reasons, but you're also consuming more water. Because, and this is crazy, coal-fired power plants consume way more water per megawatt produced than combined cycle gas turbines. Now, this is weird that I'm spending so much time like throwing my weight behind a technology that I think needs to be retired fairly soon, which is the combined cycle gas turbine. Like, that's also bad. And I do think that 20, 30 years from now, we're going to start retiring all of these combined cycle gas turbine plants that we created because solar and batteries will be so cheap. This video really is about the ridiculousness of saying that coal might be a thing that will happen again, and it just won't be, because I'm going to now explain to you why coal-fired power, and it's going to be a weird one, why coal-fired power plants consume so much more water than combined cycle gas turbines. So with a coal-fired power plant, 100% of the electricity is made by heat, and so you have to absorb all of that heat. You don't just have to boil the water, you have to recondense it, because when the steam turns back into water, it takes up way less space. And so on one side, you're making it take up way more space, and that's pushing it through the turbine. On the other side, you're making it take up way less space, and that's sucking it through the turbine. And some people say turbine, and that's fine. I was earlier saying fan, because at least we all know what a fan is, and it's not sometimes pronounced fin. And so all of the power from the coal-fired power plant relies on you being able to recondense that steam, and what that requires is pulling...
Is a turbine different from a turbine? Is it? I don't think so. I thought a turbine was like a hat thing, right? Turbine. Turbine versus turbine. American English it's pronounced as turbine, sounding like turban. But in British English, it's pronounced turbine. Really? Americans call it turbine? Is that real? Okay, so it's turbine, I think. Is the better one. I guess I'm just British. Huh. That's neat. I did not know that one.
a lot of water out of lakes and rivers and the ocean and evaporating it. And when it comes to the ocean, you might think this isn't that big of a deal. And kind of it isn't. Like, that water isn't going to like go downstream and be maybe used in homes or in agriculture. But there are like environmental concerns. When you evaporate a bunch of water to cool down steam, you end up with ultra saline water, lots of salt. If you dump that back in the ocean, that's gonna create areas where
there's a lot of salt.
Many things can live. Fisheries don't like that. People don't like that. People don't like dead stuff. People don't like areas of the ocean where only bacteria can live. And this is accounted for. They try hard to not have a huge impact, but a lot of that water is evaporating. You are increasing the salinity and the temperature of the area. Basically, because the coal-fired power plant produces 100% of its energy from heat, 100% of its energy requires cooling. Whereas a combined cycle gas turbine, maybe a third of its energy comes from the heat.
I see.
A third of its energy requires water. So from the get-go, a combined cycle gas turbine is using a third of the water. But then also, because of that, a bunch of like strategies for using less water become more palatable. So if you want to like air cool instead of water cool a coal-fired power plant, that just raises the price too much because of the inefficiency created by air cooling. Because only a third of the energy produced by a combined cycle gas turbine plant is created by the heat, finding other ways that don't consume a lot of water to cool the steam down after it passes through the turbine, even if there's like some efficiency lost there, it's not as big of a deal. It's like as third of a big of a deal. So not only do combined cycle gas turbine plants consume like a third less water, oftentimes they consume like a fifth or a tenth as much water because they can cool down the steam in ways that don't require water at all. So you can build them in places that aren't right on a river or right on a lake or right on the ocean. This is a weird thing to be talking about because everybody in the fossil fuel industry understands that combined cycle gas turbine is just a way better technology than coal-fired power plants. Everybody knows that. Nobody talks about this on the left because it sounds like now I'm in favor of burning methane, which I'm not. I think we should never build another gas turbine plant ever again. But I know that we will never build another coal-fired power plant again because the technology sucks. It's bad. I've just explained to you a bunch of reasons why it's bad, but I shouldn't need to. It's like explaining to you why you shouldn't hit your hand with a hammer by talking about like the tensile strength of bones and how your neurons work. No, we don't need to have that conversation. It's obviously bad to hit your hand with a hammer. It's obviously bad to keep coal-fired power plants operational. It's obviously bad to build a new...
I mean, is this analogy they're completely perfectly on point? I don't think so, but I get what you're saying, you know? Makes sense.
New one, which is why we're never going to build another new one and haven't since 2013. This is obvious. There is only one way you could be in favor of coal as a technology, and it is because you have been forced by cable news and internet discourse to think that anything that was different than the way things were done in 1985 is woke. Being pro-coal in 2025 is only possible if the government is run by discourse. To me, this is...
Hold on. It's 2020. When did he make this video? 22 hours ago? He made this video a long time ago. That's funny.
Clearest examples of the fact that we are currently living in a discourseocracy. It really does feel like this country right now, and I'm not saying that this is even partisan. Like, if you are a critic of the left, and I'm not, and so I don't see this as easily.
Political.
But I'm sure you see lots of ways that this is also true of leaders on the left. We need very desperately to have policies that have some amount of allegiance to the truth rather than allegiance to the discourse. And I just think we've completely lost the plot. Truth exists. It exists. It's a real thing. Expertise exists. It's a real thing. There are people who run power plants. There are people who build grids. The power just keeps being on. And that's amazing. And there's so much bad leadership going on that does not recognize that at all. That can imagine nothing except through the lens of zero-sum conflict, where not just every choice, but every belief has to be about hurting your enemies. And if it requires you to believe something absolutely ludicrous and completely unsupportable in order to go after your enemies, that's obviously what you should do. And the fact is, this is the thing that I have to accept, it works. And so I have to understand that it works, and I have to appreciate the salience here. I have to appreciate there is something that is landing about this for people. And so it is worth saying, coal is a dumb technology. It's dumb in the way that incandescent light bulbs were dumb technology. You just pass a bunch of current through a wire and it gets so hot that it glows. That's dumb. Now, it was a lot better than burning whale oil,
yeah.
which was an even dumber technology. But now we have less dumb technology.
Exactly.
And now
That's
I'm lit by lights where I can change the color temperature on a slider on my computer. That's not something that incandescent lights could do. Like, you didn't even know I was doing that. I got a light over here too. I got this boy. You can change colors with a touch of a finger. I can have it be white light. I can have it be red. Man, it's almost like that's a less dumb technology. And we should be using, I don't know, get this, better technology!
The ad break there is crazy. Wait, hold on. Is my title right? Hold on, let me check this over here. I just saw stream elements might have my wrong title. Because like the bot thing in my chat. You know what I mean? Hold on. What is that? Hold on. What? No, it is updated. Okay, cool. Yes, stream elements was just wrong. Running ads. Okay, cool.
Connections. Hero, butterfly, felt, fancy, glitter,
okay.
fantasy.
No, I'm good. I don't. At the end of all of his videos, he always does connections. Not my thing, but good video. You know. Let's see what the comments are. Hank, after he discovers he's on scent, is not a list. What? Summoning Cole. Yeah, that's true. Someone would probably watch this and the name was Cole. Quiet looping a wooden hammer. Yeah, that's funny. That's funny. Hey, Hitman's done. Let's work for a less dumb future. Cool. Whoa. Favorite coal fact is it's not easy to convert coal power plants to nuclear because coal plants are too radioactive. Really? If that's true, that's insane.